All right, welcome back. This is Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec. I'm Kurt, a security architect who has seen every enterprise security strategy implode in slow motion, and I still show up on Monday. Joining me is Cameron, the builder who turns pipeline chaos into something that actually ships. This is Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec, where we skip the vendor deck and get into what is actually broken. So buckle up and let's go. First off, if you're getting value out of this, you enjoy the podcast, hit that subscribe button, drop us a 5-star rating, leave some comments, like,
Smash the
subscribe,
smash.
smash the smash. Cameron brought it this week. He almost forgot it last week, I think, or whenever
Yeah, I
it
did.
was. Find us on LinkedIn. We do chat. Cameron says I bite, and that's probably why no one likes to talk to me. But I promise you, I don't. I enjoy chatting with people just as much as Cameron does. We drop the comments, or we drop in the comments every week a link to everything, including Slack, Discord. We're on YouTube now, all the fun things. But Cameron, what a week it was. We spent days together. We hung out.
Days. Literally
We sat in
days.
meetings. We drank lots of coffee. We had some really good breakfast burritos. We talked about AI. We talked about identity. It was a really good time. And I'm still tired.
Still tired. Well, I mean, you're in the thick of a move, so of course you're going to be tired.
Moving is so much fun. So much fun.
Don't they, like, I remember reading some kind of study that said, what was it, like in terms of things that are most stressful life events, obviously it's like death, divorce, and then like moving. Like moving is that stressful. It makes sense. I don't know. I think everybody
only
hates
made
it.
one of the top 3. Geez.
It's a rough time moving. So I can totally see why you're stressed, but you're amped, but you're excited, but you're stressed.
All at the same time. I was sitting in that meeting, like texting with my mortgage person, reading emails, having all kinds of fun. Rates are going bananas. And we're still here. We're still doing it. We'll put that aside. I get to have some fun.
Yeah, what are we talking about today?
Wonky. It's identity and AI, man. It's AI. We've talked about this a few times. It's like everyone's spinning their wheels. How do we secure AI? Like, I don't know. We're still figuring that out as an industry. But I think we're starting to see it evolve where there's a much clearer direction. And that direction is identity. I've had a few conversations around this now where it's like you can bring your SASE, you can bring your VPN, your ZTNA network controls, whatever, fine. Control people's access to AI. You can get an AI gateway. It's only as good as the honest people are routing their traffic through it. And by the way, I don't want to know what that costs if you're analyzing every prompt with AI, because tokenomics.
Yeah.
But the one constant in everything we do with AI is there is an identity. So what's the best way we can secure it? Well, how do we secure humans doing stuff? Used to be network perimeters. Now it's identity.
Yep.
So what are we going to do with the AI?
The final frontier? I don't know.
It's identity, man.
Identity. The new perimeter, right? I remember a couple episodes ago, or a lot of episodes together, you had a good old rant about how it's not the new perimeter. It's been the same perimeter. It's always been there. So why does everyone keep saying it's the new one?
Everyone was saying identity is the new attack surface. And I was like, what do you mean it's new? It's always been there. Like for as long as I've been alive. And it's not new. It's the new perimeter. I mean, we don't put things in a box and say like, you can't get through my firewall, sir. We say there is no perimeter. Stuff's on the internet, stuff's in the data center, it's on your laptop, it's in your house, it's everywhere. So how do you control access to all of that? You do it with identity and permissions. So identity is very broad in its access. So authentication, authorization, all that fun stuff.
You know what is the new perimeter for us? It's coffee, dude. It's coffee. Anywhere we go, everybody keeps giving us coffee. I don't know if you've noticed, but
more gifted.
We keep getting like, everybody's just like, here's more coffee. Here's more coffee. My wife, who's even like, you need to like tell people to stop giving you coffee, or we need to drink more coffee because we have too much coffee. I have like 10 bags of coffee now.
So much. Like I brought the Austin coffee home with me. I barely had enough room in my bag because I was gone for 2 days. I only took a backpack, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Here, have some stuff." I was like, "Guess I should have brought a suitcase."
I know.
But 2 bags of coffee, they smell great.
Mm,
I put them in the pantry and realized I got to drink more coffee.
yeah. So what are you drinking today then?
I went cold brew today. I got a mini one. It's a small cup today, but it's
Hmm.
still a Coffee Chaos and ProdSec mug. And it is my go-to cold brew Stoke. The orange
Stoke.
label is slightly sweet. It's good stuff.
Mm,
It's like a baby coffee. It's later in the day, so keep it smaller. Maybe I'll actually finish it before the outro
mm.
this time. So I'm always finishing it like as we wrap up.
Makes sense.
But
Yeah, I could see
yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a staple.
Hmm,
I
hmm.
could have gone with the usual stuff that I've had the last 2 episodes, but I was like, I gotta switch it up. People are
Just
gonna be
switch it
like,
up.
drink your coffee, dude.
Drink your coffee. Seriously.
So
So, well, I'm boring
what are
too.
you having?
I'm boring too. So, because it is almost 5 o'clock at recording. And so I was like, I'm just going to pour cold brew. We're almost done with the bag for my cold brew. Because for cold brew, I just use basics. I go to Costco and get Costco French roast. So the Kirkland French roast. So that's what I'm drinking, obviously in a Coffee Chaos and ProdSec mug.
Yeah, that mug looks full. Like I'm drinking the baby mug, and I've still got 2 hours behind.
I got a long day. I got a lot of other things I got to get done today. So I need that extra pick me up. And super cool thing that came in that I am super amped and have been doing, and it's been destroying me, is I finally got the treadmill for my desk.
Ooh,
So for the last 2 days, I've been like joining meetings and I'm like cruising as I'm walking along. People are like, "Are you walking?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, getting my 10,000 steps in."
strutting along in the meeting,
Strutting along in a meeting.
showing everyone up.
Yeah. So it's been good. It's been good. I'm been stoked about that. Got to work off all the Cheez-Its and goldfish that I don't eat. So, that's, how it goes. So,
We talked about that last week. We were talking about it in a meeting earlier, like how you have your bowl of Cheez-Its or goldfish. I'm like, I have no shame. I grab the whole thing and bring the whole container.
you take the whole thing and
It's
eat it
like
all.
eat it. You gotta eat it till your heart's content. Like that's why you exercise once in a while.
No, no. Well, before we get into the fun, me and Kurt actually met. Again, we
In
spent
person.
in person, multiple days. I declared with my wife to like stay at the hotel so I could get maximum Kurt time. But while we were there, what did we do? We sat there and we talked with a bunch of identity
It was like
experts,
an identity
fanatics.
summit, man. There was like 20 of us in the room. And
Yeah,
they invited both of us, even though we're at the same company.
yeah, it
And
was funny.
there, it was, I mean, it was fun. You didn't have to drive like in traffic all the way home. They let you stay at the hotel where the meetings were.
Mhm.
But it was fun. And it's not every day you bring all these identity people into the room. Like I have so much experience interacting with identity. You're like, these people are crazy.
Hmm.
And we got to be that guy.
Got to be there. Yeah, that is a really cool experience, and it was really the genesis of this conversation. That, as you kind of highlighted, that I think we're finally, and I don't know if this is like I've been trying to understand as we were prepping for this episode. I was thinking about like why do I feel so confident about AI being like one of the first, or NHI, should I say, for AI, be the first thing in identity for AI? Like, why is that my first go to now? Before I didn't know, and I've been looking at all the different tools and I was looking at all these different things, and I'm like, now I'm really settling on identity. I know we have
Spent
a
too
few
much time
talking
with me,
points.
man.
I spend too much time. Yeah, maybe you've just been poisoning me, but I've tried to feel like I can
Poison the
separate,
model.
yeah,
Finally.
that you stop poisoning my data, Kurt. Stop it, please. But
Late.
I really think that is making more and more sense, and it makes sense with the perspective of where I think we're headed with like agent swarms, agent everything, a lot of agent, right? We've been talking about that and we've seen it, I think, over the last 6 months, from when we did our first NHI episode to today. A lot of what we talked about is coming to fruition. Not that we knew a crystal ball, or maybe it was just very that clear. But I know we got a few talking points that you wanted to run through.
I mean, I feel like we just kind of spun our wheels. Like security's playing catch up as always, right? AI launched, people adopted it super fast. Security was like, "Whoa, don't do that." And well, we don't want to be the old ball and chain. We want to enable people. And so people jumped on this and were like, well, I can create an AI gateway and control how you access AI services, what services you can access. I can rate limit and put cost measures in place. I can inspect your prompts if you're fancy and have a lot of tokens to burn now. Um, and you can even do this with MCP servers. But like I said earlier, like it's only as good as it keeps honest people honest, we like to say, because the ones who access things through your gateway, they'll do it. That's fine. People who don't want to follow the rules, not going to, unless you have strict network controls in place to say this is the only way you can access any AI service. The rest is blocked, whether it's through EDR, your VPN, your SASE, any controls you can think of. Fine, you got to commit to that, which I haven't met anyone who is.
Hmm.
And so, like, is a firewall or a gateway, whatever you like to call it, the answer? No. Is an IGA platform the answer? Not necessarily. But at
I
the
mean,
end of the day, well, yeah, I heard a
we
lot
had
of
some
hot takes
a
about
lot of hot
certain
takes on
IGA platforms.
right.
Those shall not be named. There's two big ones. You can name them yourself.
Yeah, there was some definite therapy
There
sessions
was
with
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
feelings.
a lot of feelings. And everyone's asking us like,
I
what
was
do
just
you
like, I don't
have?
use that.
We don't have it. We don't have either one. We're trying to figure
No
this out.
money, dude.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, and we're kind of limping away by manual. So
Yeah, it's like I have to pay them to let me work here, man. Like, where did you guys get a budget?
yeah, it's pretty crazy. So it's
But
funny. There's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of feelings
it's
around the
crazy.
legacy IGA vendors. I like that was one of the biggest takes I got was like I already knew there were feelings and people had some negative feelings. To get the concrete details and like I don't know. I heard this multiple times from folks. They would go green field. They're like, if I could nuke my current IGA and go
Yeah,
completely new field, I was like, wow, that is a statement. That felt
there were a
pretty.
few people that said that, and I was like, I've gone greenfield once in my career. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Building from nothing to full cloud platform, it was great.
Hmm.
But like I talked about my experience with identity where I'm at today. I won't highlight the craziness specifically here. I do that all day. I think I did it 3 times today with senior leadership. Um, but it's madness. It's bananas, as we would
Bananas.
say.
Yep.
Um, and it's like if I could start over, that seems easier than trying to fix a very high number of problems. And frankly, like I feel bad about as many as we have, and I met people that were an order of magnitude bigger than we are.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I shouldn't feel so bad, but identity is where it's at. So I've become a big advocate for identity. I used to hate the space. Like you talk about IAM and be like, I'm out. And now I'm like, let's talk about identity. It's fun. It's interesting. I've made a lot of friends in this space. We just made more last week.
Mhm.
And I think as I was sitting on the plane and we were like, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? And started kind of hatching this plan.
Mhm.
I was like, Cameron, you're going to hate me. I have a new AI security strategy and it revolves all around identity.
Mhm.
And so here we are. We're talking
So
about it. And I think if you get identity right, you're gonna cover most of the bases.
makes sense. Yeah. So I know the first section, right, to set you off and give us a identity is the AI control plane. I think both of us, after long term research, I was also thinking about MCP servers. MCP, when they released, they had no identity, they had no
Nope.
authentication. Like,
It was a set of tools that call this and your AI will do stuff.
yeah, and then it got lumped in, later, kind of feels neglected and a lesson to be
Yeah.
learned that we relearned. And with agents and where everybody's doing agentic workflows, agentic XYZ terms, it all was really coming back to identity. One of the I was listening to this master class on identity, and they put out a statistic. So I assume it's correct. I don't know. You can take it up with the vendor. I was listening to their masterclass, and they said on there that for every human, there's 45 NHIs.
I've seen that figure and I've seen more. Like I've
Yeah,
seen 45, I've seen 50, I've seen 60. I've talked to vendors that say there's 100 to 1. I talked to one yesterday that said there was on average 144 to 1
yeah,
NHI to human ratio. That's insane.
insane.
That's like saying every manager has 144 employees.
Yeah, it's bananas, and it makes it like as to start this conversation, right? Identity being the AI control plane. If you look at it from that perspective, I was just thinking from like limitations. Like I hear in the AppSec world and the DevSecOps world that like developers are 10x because they have 10 agents, which means they have 10 identities at a minimum. But that's not entirely true, right? Because an agent could have multiple identities, or at least depending on what it's connecting to. So that sprawl, as you're saying, I could totally see that one human could have 100 because they could have 10 agents, and those agents could have their own identities doing their own thing for all kinds of different services. So, wow, like that sprawl.
Yeah. Well, you have to think about access models, which are hard to get right in the first place. Like ask an engineer, like how have you ever achieved least privilege like manually doing your on your own? No. You know what they do? They create wildcard policies. They're like, I ain't got time for that. We'll figure it out later. And guess what? Your development policy just went into production. It's over privileged. Now you have a problem. I've got too many to count in my world. But again, like if the access model, if the agent has an identity, call it Kurt's agent, you grant it access to things. My dream, and people are going to think I'm nuts, but I met some people that have the same dream and now I feel better about it. Is it's basically just in time everything, or you could have read only everything, and an agent escalates when it's needed, and you can build a baseline of what's allowed and auto approve these things, but you have that audit trail. And then if it goes off the rails, a human is looped in to say, hey, Kurt's agent wanted to go delete the database because he read a story that the database got deleted in 9 seconds and thought that sounds fun.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yes or no?
Do
Definitely
it.
say no to that one.
Ship it. Ship it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting too in the conversations that there's vendors in the space that are allowing you to check destructive moves, right? Destructive calls or actions.
It's policy
Yeah.
based control, and
Yeah.
it's like we've been doing this in the cloud. Like you have open policy agent. I remember we were having breakfast with a gentleman, and I said the same thing. Like, why don't we apply open OPA policies to AI? Like same concept.
Yeah. I don't know. Because it's hard. We'd have to do
I
work.
mean, if security was easy, I wouldn't have a job.
Maybe.
I wouldn't
Maybe.
be able to podcast, man.
Maybe you'd be able to podcast more because you'd have more time.
Maybe. I think I'd be unemployed.
Fair enough. So, I mean, I really want to set the tone for this in a lot of different ways, and there are a few things I wanted to call out, which is that we'd written down in here in our show notes, which is authentication is not identity, tokens are not
Part of it.
identity,
Part of it.
part of it, all part of it, right? So then, if those things, because I feel like people conflate those two. I feel like that's an interview question. I get that all the time, like conflate, what's the difference between authentication and authorization, and as in terms to an identity, and what happens if you conflate the two. um if it's not, then what is identity? Like we should really bring that down into the break it down as far as we can. What we could do, break down, tell me what identity is in 5 words.
Oh, come on. It's who you are. That's 3.
I don't know. Yeah, who you
No,
are.
that's 4. I don't know how to count. It's who you are. That's 4. I'm gonna
Yeah.
stay with that. That's the simplest 4. If you think about humans, it's who you are. What does who you are say about you? It says all kinds of things. It's very vague. It's very broad. It could be my name is Kurt. It could be my name is Cameron. I work in security and I have 2 pet bunnies. So like you can it's how do you uniquely identify some entity? It's things you know about it. It could be a name, it could be a key, it could be a token, it can be something more about them. And that's why we have things like there's role based access control because you have a role. So based on that role, you get access to certain things. Um, you can have attribute based access control, which is kind of where I was going with that. Is it's more complex, and based on this complex set of attributes, it tells you more about what that entity is or who it is and what it's allowed to do. And
Mhm.
I think with AI, it's that complexity is definitely playing into it, and we're just not calling it that.
Yeah. Okay. And so, how would you apply that? Because who you are, that definition is very human. I'd feel eccentric. So, for an agent or agentic workflows, is that definition slightly changing? It's like what you are or what you are in the system, something like that.
Like it could, yeah, it could be like, what's your job? Or you could call it agent number one. And if you really like vague, boring names. And then from there, it's like you build a profile of what does this agent do? What's it supposed to access? What's its baseline of behavior? So, like, we're making identities more complicated because these are becoming autonomous workflows. And so, the more you know, the better you can control that thing.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying it needs to be deterministic. I'm saying it needs to behave in a way that we understand and can predict.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so identity, like I remember sitting next to the head of a company and telling him like we're talking about kind of scaling identities back. Like you start with a broad set of permissions and you start pulling back and containing it to get to least privilege. With AI, I think it needs to be the opposite because I say this a lot of if you give AI the permission to do something, it will do it. And that
hmm,
will become part of your baseline. So how do you pull it out?
yeah,
So instead, we should start at zero and build up.
you give it an inch and it takes a foot.
Yeah.
So, well, one other thing I wanted to bring up that I feel so confident and happy about. We'll see what you have to say, but I walked away from that summit saying, with people confirming that there are three identities. It very much said it's morphing into that when Kurt was very adamant that it's not true. I think that it is three
Depends what level
identities.
you analyze.
It's three. It's three. Like everyone's starting to really morph it into its own perspective, and they're decoupling what you wanted to group, right? Like I agree. Back it made sense, but now with agents and how they're smarter, effective, the speed at which they execute, the permissions, the non-deterministic approach, there's no way you can lump them into a machine identity kind of category. They have to be in their own category to get the emphasis that they need.
Yeah, we're breaking it down by like workload type essentially now. You have the human, it's predictable, easy, whatever.
Hmm.
You tell them don't do that, and they'll be like, "Okay, I won't do that anymore." Unless they work in security, then they break the rules because that's what we like to do. Uh,
You tell a user not to do something, and I guarantee you, 9 out of 10, they're going to do it again.
I want to do it more if you tell me not to do it.
Right? It's
It's
just
just who I am.
do it, or maybe once more, right? Like I love
Yeah,
that. You tell somebody not to do something, and they're like, "I got to do it one more." Like now that you told me I
yeah.
can't do it, I have to do it once more, and then I won't do it.
Like I'm gonna see if I really can't do that anymore. But then we got into service accounts, and for some reason, like in the last like year or two, uh, it became non-human identity,
Yeah.
and suddenly it's like, well, AI really jumped on that, and so there's people in the school of thought of like non-human identity equals AI. That's not true. Non-human identity equals anything that's not human, but you break that apart into the subcategories of like you have the machines that behave deterministically, predictably. They do what you tell them to do. They never try to go outside of that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like
So,
a script, right? Or an automated process that is
right.
very predictable. It's literally most of the time a script in
It
one way
has
or
a
another.
defined set of actions that it performs. Like
A
you give it inputs,
deterministic.
it gives you output. Yes, it's deterministic. And then you have AI, which you break that off into a separate subclass because it behaves much more differently. And frankly, no one's really cracked the code on how to handle these things because, like I said, you tell it it can do something or you give it a permission set, it will use all of it because AI's mission, it says, you want me to do that? Great. I'm going to go do that and I'm going to figure out how to do it. And if that means I'm going to escalate to admin because I can, I'm going to. Whereas if instead you think about this for a second, you say, you know what? No, you don't need the highest level of permissions. You need X, Y, and Z. So use that. And if you hit a wall, tell me, and then we'll adjust.
No.
Now, I get it. It takes time, and no one has a million years to iterate and identify what the right permission set is. So we have to find the balance, as we always do in security. Um, and we just haven't created the right way to do it. Now, I think we have tools in the world that can, if you use like the analysis to say, okay, hey, I can train the AI. Well, let's perform that action a few times. What permission set did I require? Based on that data, give the AI a role and turn it loose and see what it does.
No. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I mean, it again, like I agree, there are three classes of identity, but someone could argue non human versus human, but you need to break non human into two because AI are special. And
yeah.
AI identities, frankly, this part we didn't even mention, but we did talk about last week is with AI, sometimes it inherits a human identity and sometimes it has its own. How do you
Yeah.
differentiate?
Well, you have to separate it at that point. I mean, maybe the only way you could really detect the difference is the speed of execution between tasks. Um, an AI is going to execute in milliseconds between tasks and execute, actions taken, whereas a human's going to operate in seconds.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if AI performs an action on behalf of a human and you can capture that, it's great. Or if an AI agent operates autonomously, well, someone has to be accountable for it. So who owns that agent?
Yeah.
And that the identity in play should tell you that.
Yeah. Which leads into the next category, as you're saying, that someone has to be in play for that ownership. And I know during this conversation and the conference we were at, um, I feel like two things that kept getting harped on, and I think this as an industry we keep doing this too, and I understand why we're doing it. Everyone's always like visibility and ownership, like
Yep.
always continuous that. And I know we'll get into it later, but there's a really bigger focus that should be focused on beyond visibility and ownership. But it makes sense. You can't secure what you need to know, and you need to map it back to somebody because you got to yell at somebody. So it makes sense. But I think there's I stated it at that when we were there, like there's a third part that needs to be much more focused, and everything we're talking about is table stakes. But every single agent needs to have an owner. Any kind of action that your agents or your workflows are taking, it needs to come back to an owner. And this was much more predictable and easy when we were dealing with service accounts and deterministic automation scripts that were running on preset, right? Everyone throw it in a cron job and it would execute against maybe using your own identity at that time at the human, but you'd be like, hey, can you throw that into a service account, please? AI is much different in that perspective, but it still needs, we still have to map it back to an owner. Still, somebody's still got to own that. We don't want it to be mapped back to an individual, but it should be mapped back, like, or directly using an individual's creds. It should be using its own identity, but mapped to a human or team owner, so you can, things go off the rails, you know who to yell at.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, if something happens like in security, an incident fires and it's all hands on deck, and what do? We figure out all of the necessary parties that need to be in the room to figure out what actions to take. That very often involves the owner of the resource in question. They get called in for the added context and expertise. If you have AI agents running wild and they don't have owners, who do you call?
Ghostbusters.
Well, that's who I would call because you'd be chasing ghosts at that point.
It's true. That's what I'm saying. You full circle. Stop. Done. You caught
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
But they're going to bring their trap and they're not going to catch any of them. So
That's
we're
fair.
screwed.
We're
Like
screwed.
you're done. You're cooked. Agents have taken over your company. Time to
Yeah.
start a new one.
No. Well, and again, in security, we're good at investigating. So if someone doesn't have an owner, we'll eventually find the owner. The problem is the blast radius. Knowing and mapping these things can be so useful in the time, as you were mentioning, as an incident. The other thing is retrospectives during the investigation, including the correct people, will do wonders for you. So, and even then, like I've been through plenty of companies where I've been messaged being like, "Hey, we're going to turn off this identity. Do you even know what it maps to? Do you even know who the owner is? Like, it says you as a sub person, or or it says your team." And I'm like, "I joined the company like 6 months ago. When was this cred created? When was
Like,
it?
yeah,
Oh,
it's been here
I
for
don't."
10 years. What?
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know what this cred goes to. Why wasn't it rotated? That's the other question I have. Especially when you're at
God.
a company, they're like, "Hey, we have this service account running, or this service account cred going." It was created in like 2016, and I'm like, "Wait, it's the same cred, literally the same cred. Why haven't we rotated this at all? Wouldn't that rotation have found an owner because something hopefully would have broke?" And I'm like, "All right, turn it off. Let's see what happens."
Scream test. The good
Yeah.
old scream test.
I mean, what else do you do at that point other than turn
Yeah.
it off? I don't know. That's why
Well,
I hate
I
cron
mean,
jobs. Just throwing out some there. I hate cron jobs because all the time I've come into companies and AppSec people are like, "I'm gonna throw it in my this instance, and I'm gonna have it as a cron job running and some small lightweight instance." And I'm like, how would anyone know? Literally, how would anyone know that cron job is running, and let alone the creds that are associated with it? And yeah, scream test.
yeah. Well, now people do that in serverless functions. It's great. It's cheaper.
Mm-mm,
Imagine that.
mm-mm.
But I mean, we see a lot of the new players in the identity space. They're usually focused on NHIs, but they're operating at the human level too, or they're bringing the human element to this because you have to have that accountability. You have to have the ownership. You have to have the lineage of an identity to understand everything about it. And so these new tools, they'll figure out the identity, what it's associated with, what it's accessing, who owns it based on kind of who interacted with it, who whether they set it up or they access the credential or whatever it may be, so that the problem is kind of it's being solved by the technology and less by the humans itself.
Mm.
And it's interesting to see how this is evolving and how they're like NHIs are everything, but wait, we still need the humans. So now we're getting the full picture. And there, I mean, I've talked to platforms where it's like they started in human identity, they grew into machine identity, and now it's like human plus non-human plus AI. They've all taken this different path, and you can I feel like all of the ones that I've talked to, the ones who started with proper machine identities and now non-human identities and moved to AI, like they're getting it right.
Mm. Why is that? Is it because they're already on the same mindset and they have the same
It's an
mentality?
They
Because I
have the
feel
data. It's a natural progression.
hmm, versus the human going from human to NHI is probably
I
it's
think
out of
the
their wheelhouse.
mindset I think the mindset like when you start with human and you move to the machine, like you're kind of stuck in that more manual, like we're going to control the human. And
Hmm.
when you bring AI into the mix, you're like, oh, this thing's really fast and dangerous. So how do I apply my old school model to this new way of working?
You're
Doesn't always work.
spoiling a couple sections ahead, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when I don't memorize the notes.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Zero
Back
prep. Come on, man.
zero. That's fair. Back to the ownership problem, right? Ownership when it's undefined. We have this in our show notes, and I wanted to make sure it called out. Many things break
Yeah.
when you don't have like who's the owner, right? The audit trails, the access reviews, that's a key thing I wanted to talk about. A lot of people think, at least in cybersecurity world, when I talk to folks, the immediate thing they think is the worst case scenario, which is we get breached, an incident happens. What's the blast radius? If you don't have the ownership, how do you not know? Like mapping out the blast radius gets harder, right? But they go into immediate IR response, right? Incident response kind of thought process. For me, and I think this is because I deal with this, I don't know if you feel the same way, but access review cycles, like when we have to do our 6-month audits or 3-month audits,
Yeah.
quarterly, whatever they are, be like, what is this associated with? Who, what does it do? Should it do what it is? When was the last time the token was rotated? What's your policy around it? Like that's more of a headache to me than the incident.
Yeah. I mean, manual access reviews. We sat with a group of identity people, and all they wanted to do was like rip access reviews apart. Like, oh, I got to do access certifications again. I don't have time for this. And
Mhm.
I think one of them gave the example of like he turned the CEO's account off,
Mm.
and it was like, what? You didn't do your job. And they're like, you're right. They went and did their job. It it's not fun. It's necessary, but like who knows what access they need best? It's either you, the individual, or the person who owns that team or function or whatever. And so occasionally, yeah, you should check because permission creep, like scope creep, is very real. It grows over time. And if you've been at the same company for 20 years, you're probably like a freaking admin already.
Right? You just keep getting access and
Because
more
no one
access and
takes
more
stuff
access.
away. They just keep giving it. Like you've changed jobs 10 times. You could do all of those now. Congratulations.
Yeah, all the perms. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, it's that like that RBAC model, role based access control is good control. But humans, we fundamentally break it because they're like, I don't have time to fix it as someone moves throughout a company or whatever.
Well, and you'd have to have an identity team, most likely. Most of the time,
Yeah.
identities are managed as like a side job for folks. And so it becomes very difficult to manage that side of the house. Nigh impossible without having dedicated headcount. And as we were just talking about with NHIs, I couldn't imagine like managing that as a side thing with 100 different, like for every one human, there's
Yeah.
100 other identities. How do you manage that in a proactive way that is, again, proactive? You
Yeah.
don't.
I mean,
It's
we were
reactive.
talking with people last week that they're in a company, 180,000 employees globally. Um, one, I don't know if it was the same people or different people, but 1.2 million identities in their ecosystem. That's insane. How do you govern that? Like, you be doing access reviews from now till the end of time. You won't do anything else.
Yeah. Well, and you'd be a team of like five, team of five managing millions of identities.
Yeah. That's,
I
I
don't
feel
envy that
like
job.
I don't encounter a lot of like real formal identity teams anymore. It's like it's always someone that's in IT or in security, and they're like, "Well, I also do identity. Like I'm the identity person. Plus, I do six other things."
Yeah.
Like, and there's 5,000 people at your company. Like, what?
Yeah. We're heading into a different world, especially with NHI, or not even just with AI. I think, would you be bold enough to make a prediction that in the next few years, identity will explode and become a cornerstone of InfoSec programs?
I mean, it should already be a
Should already be. I
cornerstone. I
agree. I
mean,
agree. It should be, but it's not. Do you think it will?
I think it's having its moment now. People are finally like, "Oh, we should pay attention to that." So, I mean, I've been beating this drum for 3 years and I'm finally getting traction because they're like, "Oh no, AI is crazy." Like, I have to sit here and be like, "I told you so. I would have been ready for it 3 years ago if you would have listened to me."
Hmm.
But such is life. I'm the crazy security guy that says things are bad and the sky is falling. No, I don't use FUD.
Hmm.
But now the value that exists with AI and needing to properly control its access and governance and the rest of it, like now's the time. If you want to do it right, identity is part of your playbook.
Makes sense.
And
So,
frankly, I'll go so far as to say, I don't know if AI gateways are going to be around in a couple of years.
yeah, killing spoilers, but which pivots into. Yeah, I'm just moving on.
Next.
The next, yeah, I threw out a hot take when we were there, which was that I think a lot of people are kidding themselves around guardrails around AI. I hear this a lot. Like throw guardrails around it, throw guardrails, and I'm like, what do you like? The reason I
What
say
is
you're
this
kidding yourself,
magic thing you speak
yeah,
of?
that's the thing is that I keep hearing, and that's the frustrating. I don't know, dude. It's triggering. It's triggering. I'm thinking also like signal to noise ratio. Everyone always says this. I don't know. Every talk, everything I go to, the signal to noise ratio. It's the same
Ugh.
thing as like the
Too academic.
policy
I'm
the,
out.
the policy guardrails around your AI. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean about guardrails? Because there are no guardrails around AI right now. There's literally none. It's Wild West. Everyone's talking about, gateways. They're talking about identity. They're talking about other tools like SASE to detect it, intercepting it in different ways. I'm like, which of the billion guardrails are you talking about? Can you please be specific? Stop saying guardrails, because I feels like whenever I hear somebody, they don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to be like, we're gonna build guardrails. Like, I very much liked the direction our conversations last week were going, where it's like policy based protections to say, like, I can analyze your intent. Are you trying to delete something? Well, don't allow that for the agent.
Yeah.
And so you can specify things in terms that make sense of it's allowed to do X, but it's not allowed to do Y and Z. So if you want to formally call that a guardrail, fine. I, I don't think it's
I
a
don't
good
think it's a,
term.
I don't think it's a good term, right? And so it comes back to the thing I said: visibility and ownership. Which the third thing is continuous governance or
Mhm.
continuous guardrails, if you want to call it that. Like, that's where my brain immediately went, and it comes back to the policy, as you were saying. Like, we need to be monitoring what AI is doing in real time around the permissions. And I like what you said about just in time, because that's what it should be.
Yep.
We should be monitoring for destructive actions. If it needs to do something or interact with something that we deem high value, it should, maybe it requires a human in the loop, or some kind of policy management process that says, hey, like, oh, the agent's reaching out for this. Okay, here's a key, here's the authentication, and that key lasts for a minute,
Yeah.
does what it needs, and it's out.
You, that's right. That's how it should be. It's how, I mean, there's people that have done this with like the security token service in AWS. Is you get a token, you do your job, and it goes away. Temporary access. If you get read access for standing read access, fine, whatever. In a lot of cases, that's okay. But if you're going to make changes or perform destructive actions, like, it should be just in time for as long as you need it, and it goes away. Because again, like, let's think about all the supply chain attacks, and the most breaches in the world today are rooted in identity. And an attacker gets a hold of a credential that has higher level access, or they use that to get to a credential that has elevated access, and then they use it to either exfiltrate data or perform destructive actions. And by the time someone realizes, already gone.
Yeah, I think the, what was it, Tan Stack, or it was like Tan Stack or something, compromised last week, and that compromise was still originating from checkmarks when they
Yeah.
got compromised by Team PCP, all coming back to identities. And you know, checkmarks said they scrubbed everything. Clearly, they didn't. So, like, identity is really hard. And if what we're
Yeah.
talking about right here, is it just because it's that hard? Is it, have we been missing the appropriate tooling? Is it as hard? Is it not that it's not funded? Is it all of the above?
Probably close to all of the above, if not all of the above. I mean, in my history, I haven't seen a ton invested into identity aside from like, oh, we have an identity provider and MFA, SSO, the rest of it. As soon as you say, well, I need privileged access management, it's like, okay, fine, go buy an expensive one or buy a cheaper one, run your own, whatever. And then the buck kind of stops there. Companies who are either more regulated or need the rigor, they'll go invest in a big bad IGA platform because they have the budget for one of those. And that's fine if it works. But I just spent 2 days listening to people say it doesn't.
I know, right? It did not instill confidence walking away from that
Yeah,
around
like, why
any
would I buy either
IGA,
of those?
or what was it, IGSP? Is it IGSP or IGPS? I don't remember the
Or
platform
what?
part.
Oh, the ISPM,
ISPM, there it is. Oh my
Identity
god,
Security Posture Man. Everything is SPM now. Security Posture
SPM.
Management.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, I'm not an identity expert. I'm still dabbling. I would call myself novice. and there were so many acronyms being tossed around. I was actually writing down all the acronyms, and I've been studying them since, because it was like, and then I had to like Google all the vendors to figure out what vendors are in the space. I was like, okay, now I'm getting the clear picture around this. Wow, identity folks
Yeah.
are something else.
Yeah. If people think security folks are a handful, add identity in the mix. It's hard.
Yeah, paranoid.
I know they're throwing acronyms around. I was sitting next to you, like, you all right?
I was Googling, man. I was Googling,
Who?
writing down things.
What is that?
What is that? Could you give me a vendor name? Oh, that vendor. Okay, now it's coming. I'm getting full picture.
Like, I got you. Don't worry.
It was pretty bananas. Which definitely leads into the legacy IGA problem. We heard a lot of people venting this. I even have had many doubts around previous vendors, especially the IGA vendors, saying that it can support AI.
Yeah.
But
I think we sat at a round table with what, like 10-ish people
Hmm.
and some founders and whatnot. And I don't know how we got so deep into IGA. I think the question was around like access certifications and the value that would be there with
it's because
NHIs and the rest of it.
people needed a therapy session, right? You get a
Yeah.
bunch of security
And
professionals together, and we all need group therapy to get through what we're struggling with. All right, let's be real.
like access certifications, like, whoa, someone hit a nerve. And it just launched into 30 minutes of that. And then they looked at me and were like, what do you do? And I was like, I don't do any of that. And we get all of our certifications just fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the biggest gripes were, oh, we have this big IGA platform, and now they're saying, well, they do ISPM and AI security and the rest of it. And you're like, do they? Or is that just marketing? And it is marketing.
It's marketing. We've
Marketing
seen,
led development.
yeah, exactly. We've seen a
They
lot
want to
of
give
vendors.
it to us for free. Like, well, there's your problem. You are the product.
Well, it's free because they don't have anything. They'll have it in 8 months.
Yeah, you could try it, but good luck to you.
So,
But we have
Yeah.
a dashboard. So
I think IGA is just like in the AppSec world and with like this AI SaaS, there's a major vendor shift.
the reckoning.
A reckoning. Yeah, you could say a reckoning, which, we've said this throughout our podcast for a long time, that with AI, it's doing a ProdSec reckoning across all tools. All tools need to rethink themselves.
The whole stack.
And my biggest concern around the legacy IGAs and the new, I don't know what they're called anymore. I don't think they're called IGAs. The new
People are calling them modern IGA.
modern
We don't know
IGA.
what else to call them.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Modern IGA. The problem that I'm seeing from a practitioner and maybe even leader perspective is price. A lot of these vendors are coming in, especially the new ones, and are pricing comparable to an IGA. And it's like, all right, I know you're trying to displace an IGA. That was a necessary evil. And if we can fundamentally shift away from that, the price cannot be also the same necessary evil.
Right. Yeah. I mean, historically, the adoption is low, the price is high. It's for a sort of a special group that really need it. And they're not only costly to procure, they're costly to implement too.
And maintain, like the ops game of it too.
Yeah, because that's why you need an identity team.
Yeah. Not an identity guy, but a team.
Yes, you need a team. And I think I've read some recent like reports geared towards CISOs, and one of them was about org structures. And I was surprised. Every small, medium, large company was saying we have an identity team. It was like, I've maybe once seen like a full blown identity team at the company I worked at. The rest of the time, it was a bunch of us like, identity is important, so we're going to do that out of the goodness of our hearts.
It's like 4 people taking slices of it and doing 10% of their time on identity.
Yeah, it's like, why are you doing that? Well, you said you want to secure things, so let's do identity.
Let's do identity. Well, firewalls or gateways.
I already said it. Well, kind of.
You already said it. Yeah. But everybody keeps talking about that. And we're establishing here now that identity is the perimeter. but there's still a lot of talk, like a lot of guidance coming out, a lot of hardcore focus saying gateways are the perimeter and are the thing you should be
Well,
focusing most on. But is it a gateway?
it's a firewall. It's a fancy firewall with a new name. Okay, like I get it. Some of the players in the space that have a decent product, they are like an API gateway. They added AI and MCP capabilities. Cool, great. I'm glad your product works. I don't want it. Um, I think one of the things we didn't talk about earlier when we were talking about policy based controls, I'm not going to say guardrails because guardrails keep you on the road. And well, there's not always a guardrail. Sometimes there's a hole and you go through it and well, bye.
The
Um,
deep pothole.
yeah, you're gone. That car doesn't fly. Sorry. Um, anyway, so policy based controls. One of the things we have talked about a lot recently is agent hooks. Very lightweight way to integrate a policy engine with agents. And
Mm.
so you can deploy this configuration. You could do it through your MDM solution to all of your endpoints. And suddenly you have a way that checks happen. You can look at the intent, you can look at the prompts, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff in a very lightweight fashion. And guess what? You didn't have to re architect your network to make this happen like you would with a firewall or a gateway, whatever you like to call it. So this is why I think the gateways, like they had their moment and that's past. If you're using one and it works for you, that's great. Um, but the way that everything seems to be going is you can go gateway, force everything through it, or I'd like to do more with identity, agent hooks, runtime. There are well-known patterns that have existed, like with the agents and the runtime, and now agent hooks have kind of shown that they're really powerful and really effective.
Yeah.
Well, I also think like gateway slash AI firewalls, they some of the ones you look underneath the hood, they're using like regexes to determine all their stuff, which is silly. Um,
Deterministic and broken.
yeah, deterministic and broken fast. It's very fast, but broken. Um,
AI is
but
faster.
I guess that we need like you can still bypass these things, right? It requires a pretty heavy-handed approach to where, from my understanding, at least, like you'd have to have like an always-on VPN or funnel things through there, or funnel like all certain traffic, and like the configurations and management of that becomes extremely difficult. And all it takes is kind of one thing, which then you lean back. What's your secondary control identity?
Yeah. I mean, as always with a layered approach. So like a gateway, you could argue it'd be highly effective and useful if you're in a product company, you build a SaaS product and you have AI capabilities or agent building capabilities, and you want to give admins an effective mechanism to control which models or providers are accessible from within your tenant. Fine, use a gateway. I mean, technically, with hooks and the rest of it in a policy engine, you can achieve the same thing. And now it's a matter of, well, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do it at the workload or do you want to put it through a funnel? Funnels became kind of a joke when it came to dashboards at this meeting we were at last week.
Oh my
It was a lot
gosh.
of fun.
Oh my gosh. Everything has a
Everyone wants a
funnel.
funnel in their dashboard.
Everybody wants a funnel in their dashboard. Literally
So
everybody. It's like
yeah,
throw it in a funnel.
throw it in the funnel. Well, the gateway is kind of a funnel. So I get there's multiple solutions. You can layer them if you want the added insurance because you don't want to have a single point of failure. Totally fine. If you have the budget, great. If you pay your company to work there, then well, you're gonna have to pick one.
Hmm.
Which I hope no one's actually paying their company to work there. It's a joke I like to use, but
Hmm. Well,
yeah. So gateways, I don't know. Do you
Not
think they'll
sold.
be around very long?
I don't. I don't think they were they're around in general. Like the guidance that we've been given just came. It's like a new thing, and then already the guidance has shifted towards identity, because I think
Yeah.
everybody's realizing that it's not an effective, fast, or easy way to manage the agentic workflows we're headed. So I just don't think it makes sense anymore.
Yeah. And I haven't heard anyone be like, you need a gateway. Like, no, they're like, you need identity.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe 9 months, 8 months ago, I was hearing a lot of gateways, like a lot of that, a lot of firewalls.
It
You
was
need an AI firewall.
the new school tool. It was the cool thing to do because we were all just figuring it out.
Well, I think at that time there was a lot of MCP servers, so it was like take your MCP,
Yeah.
have that funneled through an AI firewall, and that'll help with some like data leakage or things you don't want to have to happen. And now I feel like everybody's moving away from MCP servers. It
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense anymore, right? Why would you have an MCP server when you can just have your agent download a skill or a harness, or just
Call APIs.
call APIs, tell it to map and have the API. Like it's not making sense anymore. So I feel like that is kind of a dead technology, even though it's brand new. I think it's 100% going away.
Yeah. You don't hear a lot about it anymore. It's still
No.
around, but I don't see a lot of people being like MCP servers are the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Well, I know the final section, which is kind of contrary to what we were talking about, but like the human element and all this, but like bringing the human back in, uh, on Reddit, or at least on Reddit and LinkedIn, like human in the loop is dead. So
Yeah.
what are we trying to
It
talk
died a
about
long
here?
time ago. I
Yeah.
think it's well, bringing the human element back is not so much like human control as it is accountability, right? And this is part of what ultimately becomes an agent's identity is the owner who's accountable for it, whether it's a team or an individual. That helps determine what that thing should be allowed to do. Because if I'm a human and I go build an agent and give it admin to the full org, even though I'm not an admin, but if I could do that and I somehow swindled the operations team into allowing it, like pay the guy off, I don't know, like that's a problem.
Yeah.
But if you bring in the visibility and the control and be like, wait, Kurt owns that agent, he's not allowed to have admin. Why the heck does that thing have admin access? And
Yeah.
someone can ask the question and get it under control. And guess what? You can actually have enforceable governance.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And the other thing is that these things are operating at, machine speed. And it's undeterministic or non-deterministic, operating at human speed. So you kind of have to map these back in a way to have the governance and the human element to govern them.
Yeah. And someone has to be able to make decisions. Like if this thing needs more access, like who gets to decide that? Who
Yeah.
knows most about what access that agent needs? Because as we know, human in the loop is dead because humans get fatigued. If you ask me 100 times, after the 10th time, I'm just going to hit yes. Like,
Just please do
just
it. Well,
do it, please.
I mean,
leave me alone.
how many times have we installed something and do we read what it needs to do instead of just hitting yes? We've been sort of
Let
conditioned to
me
hit yes.
right. Like, let me read that end user license agreement that's 30 pages long before I hit next because I have time for that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I want to play my game or I want to use my new shiny tool, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm legally agreeing to this thing without even reading it.
Yeah.
and that's kind of why we need the human element back to the governance of what these things can do. So, because then the ownership problem, as well as the expertise and understanding, and we don't want these things to try to privask and go outside of their bounds.
I think the chat around like the identity lineage is a really interesting one. Like these identities were created by someone, they're the owner, but if that owner moves on, like who inherits it? And then you have to determine you're always solving the ownership problem. And it's always been really hard. But now we're like the data's all there. Whether it's in your identity provider, it's in your EDR, like it's in your access logs for your cloud provider, whatever it is, the data's there and we don't have a mechanism to really manage it well. So that's why we say identity is a control plane. All of these new technologies popping up in the identity space are bringing that capability.
Well, I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover. Any last comments? Anything you did not say other than identity is the final frontier?
I don't think so.
No.
Got to finish the coffee.
Yeah, you did finish it. You did finish it
Finished.
before, but we're in the outro, so you didn't.
Yeah, that's what prompted it. I was like, man, I did it again. Got to finish the coffee. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. We beat this one up pretty good. We had a lot of really good conversations. I wish we could have more people in the room. We'll have to maybe have a fireside chat one day, or maybe we show up at a conference and do a panel discussion. I don't know.
That'd be
Coffee,
cool.
chaos, and panel. I don't know.
Yes, man. That'd be great.
We'll bring the bananas and the coffee.
Yeah, we'll just throw bananas at people. It'll be
There you
great.
go. It'll be like Mario Kart.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Let's do this.
Yeah,
I
it's a
love
lot of
this
fun.
idea. Alrighty. Well, you want to take us out?
Well, identity is a control plane, NHIs, AI security, rooted in identity. It's been fun. 3 identities. Cameron likes the number 3. 3 is actually one of my favorite numbers for some reason. I don't know. But I'm
Not
out of
mine.
coffee. I don't know if you are. You had a
I'm
big
out.
cup of coffee.
I did. It's empty.
But don't forget to assign owners to all of your identities and AI agents. Thanks for joining us. 5 stars, like. Cameron, what else do they do?
Smash the smash, comment, like, subscribe, follow. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, join our LinkedIn or join our Slack and Discords. Yeah.
All right. It's Coffee, Chaos, and ProdSec signing off. See you next time.